Ah, DC, the universe that everybody loves to hate. Well, not today, Satan, because I dare you to find something wrong with this one. Shazam is about as fun as a movie can get without becoming an outright comedy. It's a perfect blend of fantasy and action, with a healthy dose of humor and just the right amount of heart. All qualities of a movie, by the way, that Hollywood sadly makes less and less these days. It's a small film with a big budget. You know the type I'm talking about, one that falls somewhere in the middle of an indie flick and a studio tentpole. A dying breed of entertainment that is more commonly known as a mid-range movie, and one that I think often resonates with the audiences the most, since it doesn't require a critical analysis like an indie would, and it's not so far removed from reality that you couldn't see yourself occupying the same universe, like a modern-day blockbuster tends to be. Although I gotta admit, I'm a little bit biased, since movies like that are clearly designed to appeal to people like me, those who aren't prone to overthinking things. And Shazam is no exception. The movie doesn't have an overtly complicated plot. It never tries to trick you or be smug about its message. In fact, if you have seen enough of these type of films, chances are you'll be able to guess exactly where it's heading from the first 5 minutes or so. But that's besides the point. Because what it lacks in complexity, Shazam makes up in wish fulfillment and fun. It's a love letter to what, in my opinion, is the best part about comic books overall. It's not the story that ultimately matters the most. It's the pure and unadulterated joy that you get from reading a comic book. Something that a lot of films in the same genre could stand to think about every now and then. Seriously, I haven't seen a comic book movie have this much fun since, well, in fact, I haven't seen a comic book movie have this much fun. Period. End of sentence. And I guess that's because, if I'm being honest with myself, I have to admit that if I was suddenly given the same powers as he was, I too would get myself into the same reckless mess that Billy did. I mean, who wouldn't? Well, maybe Cap. But you know, he had the whole World War II thing to worry about. Billy, on the other hand, is just a kid who discovered he can fly and shoot lightning out of his hands. And the movie makes that look just as awesome as it sounds. I mean, it isn't only great responsibility that comes with great power after all, but also a great opportunity to have fun. And Shazam does just that. From the opening logos, all the way through its plot, and even in the credits, the movie is an unapologetically feel-good fantasy. And speaking of fantasy, by the way, this movie was rated PG-13 for fantasy violence, amongst other things. And boy, were they not kidding about that. Not only was there some serious nightmare material as far as Shazam villains are concerned, but also a lot of quote-unquote fantasy death. And whilst I enjoyed it, the poor kid a few rows in front of me had to cover up his eyes several times. And odds are that kid is getting no sleep for the next couple of weeks. But don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that this film isn't suitable for children. If anything, it's the opposite, since the same kid was also overcome with audible joy whenever Billy Batson would change to Shazam. And it kinda made me wonder how cool it is that kids finally have a cinematic superhero of their own. I mean, sure, they must idolize a lot of other superheroes, but us adults kinda hijack the whole thing when it comes to movies. And there's always something special about being able to see yourself on screen. And come to think about it, special might be the best word to describe Shazam overall. It has a lot to say about the value of friendship and the importance of knowing that you don't have to go at it alone. Which just so happens to be my favorite message in any film, and a sentiment that was perhaps best summarized by Florence Zimmerman in House with a Clock in Its Walls.
I've found that all one really needs in this world is one good friend.
Shazam is also the second movie this year to shed some positive light on foster care, and I think that's pretty awesome, because even though the system is obviously not perfect in real world, and there's a lot of work to be done there, I also don't feel like Hollywood has been doing anybody any favors by focusing solely on the negative side of things. There's a lot of wonderful and selfless people out there who work every day to make the system work. And I think it's pretty great that Shazam decided to celebrate that, but it also made them the most important part of the whole journey. And the movie's main message, things in life just aren't that much fun if you don't have somebody to share it with. It's a pretty simple yet potent idea for a superhero film in 2019. Just like I said, Shazam is a small film with a big budget, and it's probably the most fun you'll have at the multiplex this year.